Interesting.
Same script, different actor, completely different results.
If Facebook disappeared tomorrow, like which platform you would allocate your efforts?
The most shocking thing is how big the US market is.
You want to see the drop off.
Do you want to throw that ad away, or you want to analyze it and try to understand, okay, what is working and what is not?
Let's say you want to shoot in Los Angeles. Are you personally present there, or you can arrange all of that remotely? Hey everyone, Alex Fedotoff here, and today I have an amazing guest, Alessio from 99ads.com. This guy works with some of the biggest e-commerce brands in the space, 9-figure brands. He spent close to $100 million, actually $98 million in the last 6 months on ads.
Yes, sir.
And he is here to share what's working on the creative side, what ads are working, how the algorithm has changed over time, and how to get the best results possible for your business. So Alessio, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome, man. So how you got into this space? How you started the creative agency?
Been a while. So I started as a freelance back in the days. I was like 16, managing emails for an Italian brand that sold, pickup and seduction education material.
Okay.
So it was kind of an interesting start. And then right after, social media came around, social media ads, and that's where things started moving in that direction. So from a freelance, I noticed that I was much better at selling than at delivering. So I built a team, and soon enough, it was not even a decision. It just happened to be a team, and then it kept growing, which is how we got here, I guess.
Awesome. And so from the start, you were like operating on Facebook platform or any other platforms?
Yeah, Facebook mainly at the beginning. And initially, we were doing media buying. And then after the iOS update, we basically looked at each other in the mirror and we're like, media buying is going down. The value of media buying is going down. If we want to keep charging high prices, we kind of want to go the direction that has the biggest impact, which was ad creatives, and it still is, in my opinion, at least to a certain extent, right? The product, the offer, there are many other levers, but the ads, other than those, are probably one of the biggest one.
For sure. And so that was approximately what, iOS update, like 2021. So how, in your perspective, like seeing, the biggest brands, it's like overseeing so much data, how the types of creatives or the standards for the creatives have evolved over those 4 years?
What I noticed is that it became a bit much more professional in a way, meaning that back in the days it was more about just pushing all your chips in one ad and hoping that you could scale that as much as possible. Whereas now I find it to be much more structured compared to before. Yesterday we were talking about it. You have kind of like 3 levels: the audience, the angle, and the ad. Back in the days, you could focus on the ad exclusively rather than having that much more structured approach. Whereas now, if you want to get to a certain level, you're going to have to target multiple audiences in multiple ways, so with multiple angles each, and then having multiple iterations per angle, per audience, that you kind of want to keep alive and keep profitable, maintain profitable.
We also talked yesterday about like segmentation, that there's a kind of like a cap of how much spend you can get, like going after specific audience or going after a specific angle. And once you hit that kind of like ceiling, you have to like spread into other segments of the market in order to maximize your ad spend and keep scaling farther.
Absolutely. Yeah, I wouldn't say there's a threshold that's clear for every niche, but you can definitely notice that at some point you have one audience that's kind of maxed out at a certain daily ad spend, and you don't want to stop squeezing that audience. So you want to keep that active with iterations, with new angles and so on. But in the meantime, you want to start exploring new audiences. Now, opening up a new audience in a profitable way, it's hard. Like, it's not something that, it's a one shot, one kill. It's something that takes a little bit of time. You need to find the good audience, the right audience, the right angle. But then once you do find it, it's what gives you that bigger lever in terms of scaling your ad spend. I've seen literally brands doubling their ad spend just because they opened up a new audience.
Oh, interesting. Yesterday we also had a conversation, one of your clients, they opened the market where they would sell product primarily to men, and then they would open another like segment of the audience targeting women that are buying the product for their men.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's, I mean, a pretty big thing. You have that, then if we're talking about products, you can start selling women products. That's something that you can absolutely do. Then you can also think about those more emotional angles where there's a family member. So we talked about the daughter buying products for her dad, or the son buying products for his mother. And same applies the other way around, with moms buying products for their kids. So those are different audiences. Obviously, not all of them have the same potential in terms of ad spend, but the more you can kind of pile up, stack up these audiences, the more you can grow the account, again, in a structured way, right? Back in the days, getting back to your question, you could kind of go straight for one specific ad and then just like let it rip as much as possible. Now I feel like it has to be a little more professional in a way, a little more structured. And once you like kind of like see and think in those terms, it becomes much easier to prioritize the right next step in terms of your creative strategy.
For sure. So in your experience, I mean, you're selling a lot of products to men, a lot of products to women. Which kind of demographic has higher standards, or where you really have to like try harder to sell products? Is it men or women?
Try harder to sell. Probably I would say men. Like usually with women, you have a lot of levers you can pull. With men, I mean, I think about myself. Maybe I'm biased because of that, but most of the time, like, I'm not gonna bother. I'll maybe save the ad and look at it later. Whereas if I look at my fiance, for example, she's much more into it and she's ready to take action. And this is something that obviously you see also in bigger brands. I mean, it obviously depends on the brand, right? But you see many men products that sell mainly to women for whatever reason. You see many angles for women that still target their husbands, their boyfriends, because sometimes it's the woman that buys certain products. I don't know, I think about skincare.
Right.
I think about clothing. I think about underwear. That's something that, I feel like if you look at like your circle of friends, it's something that doesn't sound too crazy to think about, right? You can think about your friend who's not interested in the skincare, but then his wife is like, well, you should moisturize in the morning. It's like
So Facebook has been your like bread and butter for many years now. So if Facebook disappeared tomorrow, like which platform or which like source of traffic where you would allocate your efforts to?
The internet is still there. Okay, if the internet is still there, I think GPT right now has one of the highest potentials of replacing Facebook in a way for
GPT?
Yeah, I mean, not right now, but in the future. If imagine you have your conversation and then you get I read a thread about this. I don't remember who it was from, but basically imagine you have the conversation with GPT and then you get the product straight in the conversation on GPT. What if you could connect that to Shopify right away and there's a checkout link or like an add to cart button right away?
Oh, wow.
That would be interesting. And I mean, it's something that might happen in the future, but based on what's happening right now, native advertising, very interesting. I mean, creatives are less the type of creatives that we do because, you don't have the crazy videos, at least in the ads. Obviously, then you have the advertorials, the VSLs in the advertorials if you want to, but still, native is very interesting. TikTok, very interesting. Again, depending on the right demographics, it's very interesting. Every time I'm here in the US, I see billboards everywhere. It kind of gives me, like a little bit of a... I can kind of see the potential for at least local businesses and for products you can find around. So, yeah.
In our company, we talk about like breaking the rules sometimes. So, like in business, you kind of have to break the rules in terms of what's accepted like as a best practice, what rules do you kind of like break, or maybe something that you've tested in the past? It's like, geez, everyone does it this way, we do it this way, and it actually worked.
Breaking the rules. So my mind goes back to probably thinking in terms of levers, meaning obviously to break the rules, you got to know the rules, right?
Right.
So you kind of want to, I might have a set of rules that I know and like keep in mind you have another set of rules. But in my mind, the standard rule for an agency that sells ad creatives should be push ad creatives. But then at the same time, I'm always kind of like finding myself in a conundrum where I need to tell clients, look, it's not the ads. I mean, the next, like the big lever that's missing right now, it's the product. I mean, if I look at your offer and I look at your competitor's offer, it's not even close. How do you expect to be competitive? And ads are great. Ads have that massive impact, but then, you know, there are bigger levers that can bring bigger results, and that's something that we kind of tend to be very clear about when we work with clients. And obviously, it's not our job to put together the offer, but it happens quite often that we put together some sort of a research. Hey, this client is going this direction. This competitor is going this other direction. Where do you want to go? Do you want to optimize for AOV? Do you want to optimize for LTV? Run your unit economics unit, and see what works best for you. But we need to change something. Like the ads are impactful, yes, but till a certain point, to a certain extent. After that, there's much more that needs to change.
So ads can only amplify what's already there. Like if, like you have, like you mentioned, if the product doesn't have clear competitive advantage, or the offer maybe is not as strong, then ads only can do so much to kind of like get the performance and help the business scale.
Absolutely, absolutely. Something that I notice is that the biggest brands are very comfortable scaling at a lower return. And the reason why they do that is because they're very confident in the product. They know that at some point next month, another purchase is going to come up. And I noticed many of them also track metrics like average order value on second order, time to second order, which they tend to pay a lot of attention to because of that reason. I mean, if I want to outspend you and you're comfortable with your high ROAS, but I'm happy to spend more to acquire one customer, and that customer is going to come back to me, I'm happy to outspend you. So it's an amplifier for sure. It's a loudspeaker, and like the best offer usually wins.
Like it's an interesting perspective that the business overall is kind of like, you have to build these like building blocks. Like at the core, in order for the business to scale, it has to be good business in the first place, with good like funnel economics, with good unit economics, with good margins, with good like lifetime value. Only that is kind of the business that you can scale. Like even if you had the best ads in the world.
Absolutely, yeah. Like without that, it's gonna be hard. And this is probably getting back to your previous question. What has changed, like since I started?
Let's say 4 years.
Yeah, in the last 4. I mean, even if you think about 2018, 2020, there were many products that were not as good, and many companies that were not even companies that were absolutely murdering it.
Yeah.
Now, there are still many, but less, like much less compared to what it used to be.
So the barrier of entry, if you want to scale something, like you really have to be like on point with all of the moving parts of the business, the product, the offer, the funnel, the LTV kind of game. So all of those need to be aligned.
Absolutely.
So I've heard this many times, and also we kind of like have this like philosophy in your business. I don't know if you'll agree that the best ads, they don't look like ads. Would you agree with this?
Absolutely, I do. Yeah.
So what do you think takes the ad, or maybe some specific principles you are using or specific frameworks in order to make ads not look like ads?
The easiest thing, and where my mind goes, is relatability. So you want to find people that are relatable to the person like the person that you're targeting. So if I'm hiring catwalk models that are absolutely stunning with perfect makeup in a perfect hair, are they going to be relatable to the random 40-year-old woman who's like sitting like in her couch just scrolling around? Probably not. So that's gonna most likely gonna look like an ad. Whereas if you have somebody who looks exactly like that person and who's walking her through the problem that she's living every single day, imagine how much more impactful that is. And that person obviously relates to the person you have on camera who looks like her and feels like these brands, whatever they do, they understand my problem. So they probably know how to solve it. Let me hear more. Let me click on this. Let me learn more about the product. So absolutely, they should not look like an ad. If they look like an ad, at least for conversion purposes on Meta right now, it's not ideal. I mean, you obviously, you have certain campaigns that spend a lot of money, but the real like direct response, like the old school, like based on the old school principles, that should not look like an ad, in my opinion. And that's where we see the best results when you have somebody that look exactly like the person you're targeting.
So the selection of actors or content creators in this case is super important.
Absolutely, yeah. The casting is probably the biggest lever you have when it comes to production.
Interesting.
Same script, different actor, completely different results.
So what's your thought process, or maybe like kind of behind the scenes process of let's say brand reaches out to you, right? They want to like advertise their product, like, and in order to do that, you have to shoot some content with real people, with content creators, with actors. What is your process? Like, where do you go? Like, how do you hire those people? How do you pre-select and filter them out?
Yeah, so we have many options. The one that we like the most, well, let me walk you through all the options. The first option is self-tape content creators. So these are actors, content creators that can take videos themselves. Now, the problem with that is that they're a little too confident on camera most of the time. Sometimes,
A little too confident. What do you mean by that?
a little too confident, meaning that if I'm, again, trying to be relatable to the person who's watching the ad, that person is not going to be that confident on camera most of the time. Again, it's product sensitive, industry sensitive. It changes, right? But at the same time, you kind of want to have less perfection in a way. And if you have that 10 out of 10 content creator who's been doing that for the last 10 years, first might be kind of burnt in terms of their face, meaning that the person has been seen in like working with hundreds of brands. So there are there are upsides and downsides, of course. The self-tape creators are very easy to arrange, so you don't need to find a videographer, you don't need to book a location, you don't need to do anything. It's just, hey, this is the script, you take care of it, send me the content. Then the second option is the videographer. So we call this the do-it-yourself videographer, which basically means that we send the brief to a videographer. This usually doesn't include a talent, and the videographer shoots content that's product-based. So I don't need the talent, I just need the product, and that product gets shot by the videographer alone. So it's kind of like...
So it's B-roll mostly?
Might be B-roll, but also you have problem scenes, benefit scenes that tends to help quite a lot to create your content library, your branded content library, which again, we talked about clients that come to us. Sometimes they don't have that content, so this is one of the easiest way for us to do it. Then the third option, which is the one that we like the most right now, is videographers and actors. So we take care of the casting. We have different videographers that shoot. Mainly, we have two locations where we look for talents, which is where we find the best options usually.
Where is that?
Which is one Miami and one Los Angeles.
Oh, interesting.
California. Yeah, Los Angeles. There are so many actors.
People that came there to be in Hollywood,
yeah, exactly,
right?
exactly. And then they find themselves shooting content, which is great. I mean, it's a great way to build your portfolio if you want to be an actor, I guess. But that's where we find the most success, where you have somebody who's maybe not too comfortable shooting content themselves on the phone, But then they have a videographer who's been doing that for a while, and the videographer knows exactly what the content should look like. And that's where we can find people that are exactly that look exactly like the people we want to target. So we have full capability. We have full freedom and flexibility on the casting because we have a bunch of people. We usually use backstage.com.
Right.
I'm sure you know
Yeah.
it. And we find some of the best talents there. Usually that's the platform where we find 95% of the talents. When we don't find anybody because we have like a very specific niche or a very specific demographics, then we do outbound basically. So we go on platforms like TikTok, Instagram, and we look manually. We have a person that's focused exclusively on casting and looks for the right fit. So this is the third option. The fourth option is the studio content. So hire a like full ass studio, which is something that we've done. Like we used to do much more back in the days. Now it's been probably 1 year, 2 years since we've done that.
So that whole process, let's say you want to shoot in Los Angeles, are you personally present there, or you can arrange all of that remotely?
I'm not. You have a few options. We have trusted videographers at this point. So these videographers have been trained by us. We have calls with them pretty much every week for all the shootings, and they have pre-production calls with our creative strategists. So once the brief is ready, they basically talk to the creative strategist. Hey, am I getting this scene correctly? Is this how you want the product to look like? Or vice versa, the creative strategist, hey, this scene is very specific. Make sure that the talent, handles the product in a certain way because the brand has to be on camera. The second option, which is what we used to do, was the remote direction. So instead of us being there in California for the shooting, we are simply present on Zoom. There are a few platforms that let you basically look at what's in the camera while they're shooting.
Oh, interesting.
Which is, pretty interesting. I don't remember the names. I'll find them and give them to you off record.
Interesting. So in terms of the pay for the, let's say, videographers and for the talent, for the actors, what are those rates usually are?
So it depends on the length of the brief, how big the brief is, and how experienced both the videographer and the talents are. But it really depends. It's kind of hard to give you a specific amount. I believe right now the minimum we're paying the actors is around $300, $300 to $500 based on the length of the brief.
Is that like the whole day of shooting?
Depending on the brief, it might be. Back in the days, we used to do the time based agreement. So this is 1 day of shootings. But then the brief, hey, this scene is in the afternoon. This scene is supposed to be shot in the morning. It's not going to work in 1 day. I'm going to have to stretch it to 2 days. So we have to revisit the agreement. Whereas now we're basically doing just a certain amount of scenes. Doesn't matter how long it takes you. If you agree on this amount of scenes, we're good.
So with all of these, with all of the actors, like you said, sometimes you give the same script, the same brief to different people, and you get different results. What's typically, and I know it could be different number for different brands. What's typically a win rate on the actor or on the content creator for you?
I remember what I was gonna tell you earlier, which is we could definitely spend less than what I told you. But again, I truly believe casting is one of the biggest levers. So I'm happy to pay more just to have those people committed to delivering great results so that they also want to come back and work with you again and again. And that kind of builds a pool, a bench of vetted talents that you kind of want to come back to as often as possible for the same brand if they're working, if they're performing well, or for other brands that are maybe not the right competitors, but they can still match their demographics that we're targeting. Regarding the win rate, so it's kind of hard to give you a number. I'll give you a number based on the weekly batches that we deliver. That maybe helps you. It's hard to do it based on the shooting because it's the way we work on briefs is based on scene. So it's basically specific scenes that then we mix and match with old content as well.
Right.
So it's not just that specific actor, but might be multiple actors, might be old scenes plus new scenes, might be something that was already validated, but now we are just representing the same script with a different person for a different demographic. So in that case, how do you consider that? The script was already validated. We already know that the script worked. So it's kind of tricky. Regarding the win rate, usually we kind of want to aim at 10 to 15% is realistic. Some brands, depending on the initial situation, obviously you have different options. Meaning that if nothing is working and you have to crack the code, it's not going to start from 10, 15, 20% win rate. So that's how kind of you want to tackle. It's not only based on what we are putting in the brief, but based on the amount of data we find on the ad account, for example, how much they've spent on ads and how much content and data can we find in the ad account. That obviously plays a massive role.
So let's say you start working with a brand. Brand is already, has some momentum, and let's say they have like a winning ad that like crushing it. Let's say they spend, I don't know, $100,000 a month on an ad. Like they have, let's say the brand has
so
this
up to
kind of
3, 4. Okay. I would break down that ad as fast as possible, again, into audience, angle, ad. Regarding the ad, you want to make sure that that ad keeps delivering. Because if it's only one ad and you're holding on to that ad for your dear life, at some point, results are going to go down. At some point, it's going to start tanking. So the highest priority, in my opinion, should be following our iteration framework and creating other variations. So you kind of want to multiply that winning ad that you have so that by the time it stops working, you have more ads that are delivering, that are bringing in sales, which is the priority. Again, you kind of want to save what's working and then work on new variables. Regarding our iteration framework, usually we have 4 levels. This is kind of like the go-to as you get started. So it's the kind of like the simple approach. Obviously, depending on what you're doing, you can go in multiple directions. But the first type of iterations we create, we call it early iterations. So this is basically where you work on the hook. You can take different hooks. You can take same audio, but different visuals. So you maintain the audio, whatever you're saying, and you change the visuals, or vice versa. You maintain the visuals and you change the audio. So you can think of, there are many examples that I'm sure you have in mind. Then the second type is the script iteration. So you take the script and you change it. You can make it shorter, you can make it longer.
So, okay, how do you know which part of the script needs to be changed? Let's say this is an ad of like, let's say 2-minute ad, right? That's been a winner. Which part of the script specifically would you focus on?
So if it's only one ad, usually you kind of want to analyze ads per groups. So you want to see ads that are within the same audience angle ad, different iterations. You kind of want to analyze them per groups. But if it's only one ad, then the go-to would be looking at the average duration of the view. So the way we do it is 0 to 25%, 25 to 50%, 50% to 75%, 75% to 95%. And you can take off the rest. So let's say I want to isolate 25 to 50%. Then I do 0 to 50% minus 25 to 50%. And then I know what is the drop rate on each part.
You want to see the drop off. You want to see basically if you kind of like imagine the ad, right? I mean, the graph is always like this, right? In terms of like watch time, there's only a few percent of people that will watch the ad until the end, but you want to see at what specific points the retention kind of just like
drops.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And those parts you want to create iterations with.
Exactly. Or you want to change. Meaning, if it's only one ad, it's I wouldn't recommend going that direction simply because it becomes a little more kind of like micromanaging or over-optimizing. Whereas the initial iterations here were still kind of like a level 2. So can be shortening the script, making the 2-minute ad now 1 minute, making it 40 seconds, or making it longer. Let's try the same script, but with social proof right after the hook. So let's add people who use the product right after the hook and see what happens. Or let's add more CTAs. Instead of having the CTA at the end, let's put the CTA in right after the hook. And you can play with it. And the more you play, obviously, the more data you gather, and that data you can use it for the next iterations.
Interesting. So, okay. Let's say it was in terms of like length of the ad, right? Because I mean, this is quite substantial like iteration. In your experience, like what is in terms of ads that like just spend the most money? Is there a direct correlation between, let's say, the length of the ad? Let's say, like, I don't know, 5-10 minute like mini VSL or VSL versus, let's say, short piece of kind of UGC kindish piece of content.
Yeah.
Have you seen the correlation between the longer the ad is, the more ad spend you can put behind it and the more you can scale it?
I wouldn't put my finger on a specific correlation between length and ad spend, but probably you can do that based on the niche, based on the vertical. For example, health, beauty, well, let's say more health in problem-driven products, meaning products that solve a very specific problem. You can think of, I don't know, you have many options, but think about things that tend to have an emotional pain for the person who's going to buy. I'm thinking of, for example, one audience that tends to work very well with longer ads can be women who are approaching menopause. For that type of audience, then you can go a little longer. It's not going to be a problem. For problems that kind of need a bit of education, if I'm selling a random, I don't know, like knee, whatever it's called.
Massager?
Yeah, knee massager. I kind of need to explain how it works. And obviously, the longer I can get the person to spend in front of my ad, the more educated I get that person. And then by the end of the video, hopefully that person wants to buy my product. With other products, let's say, I don't know, clothing, like even some like supplements that are very mainstream, beauty products, usually up to 1 minute, it's where you see the sweet spot.
Oh, really?
Yeah. That's where, I mean, at least like based on what we're seeing.
And then you're seeing a lot of data.
I mean, it's quite a lot. Obviously, I'm not in the nitty-gritty working on all clients, but I have a very good grasp of what's going on overall, which is, I mean, tends to be good. I get reports from the team. I talk to my co-founder about things that we are noticing, trends, and that tends to keep me updated on what's going on, even though I'm not on the account every single day.
Did you work with a lot of authority figures, or let's say if it's like a beauty brand, like the specific doctor or kind of like the person with a lot of authority in that field, or it's mostly just like the actors and kind of content creators?
We do that as well. I mean, we hired doctors, we hired like some estheticians for certain products. That's part of the casting. So obviously you want to find a real doctor, real estheticians, and get them to say what you want. I know many people tend to structure the deal as some sort of equity thing with the authority figure, which makes sense. But the way we do it, it's just we take somebody who's the doctor, we get that person in front of a camera with a brief and get them to go through the VSL, go through the ad and shoot the scenes that we need. We worked in the past, not right now, with products and brands that were working with celebrities. And that was very interesting to see. There were certain ads that come to mind. It only took one scene from a celebrity on the ad, like an ad that was based on different angles, different audiences. But if there's a scene with that celebrity, the results go up, which is pretty insane. We didn't have the opportunity to explore that more because it happened just in a few instances, but it's very interesting. That's something that, I mean, if aligned and relevant to the audience, might be interesting for sure.
So the celebrity needs to be like super well known in that case?
for the product you're selling, like for the audience you're targeting. Yeah. I mean, think about some of the most popular for sure are Joe Rogan, Gary Brecka,
Right.
like people that, like are Huberman,
Yeah.
that are sharing a lot of value, and people tend to be to listen to them very accurately and take action on what they recommend.
So, how much weight, in your experience, media buying has on ads performance these days? Can you basically this? So the question is, can you outperform your kind of like, let's say, if you have like mediocre performance creatives or mediocre creatives in the first place, like, can you just like outplay the algorithm with those creatives, or if creatives suck, there is not much you can do with media buying?
I don't think so. What I would say is that if you have a great creative strategist and a mediocre media buyer, you can definitely outbeat anybody with a great media buyer and a mediocre creative strategist, in my opinion. So great creatives, average media buying beats great media buying, average mediocre creatives. So it's still important for sure. We all know, like the mainstream narrative of the creatives are the new targeting and
Right.
just, go broad. It's not always what works for many cases. So I would say having a great creative strategist and a great media buyer definitely helps. But if you have to choose between the two, I would definitely go for the like a strong creative strategist.
How many creatives usually does it take? Let's say someone comes to you, they're doing, let's say, I don't know, $200,000 a month, right? And they want to very aggressively scale to, I don't know, $1 million a month at least. It's a starting point. How many creatives does it take usually, in your experience, considering there's good funnel economics, there's good foundations of the business, in order to just crack that code and get the business to 1 million months?
I wouldn't look at it in terms of how many creatives, but I would look at it in terms of how many big swings you can, like big bets you can win. Meaning, at that point, 200 to a million, that's a 5 times growth. So, sometimes it happens, you're drop shipping from China, you don't have inventory problems,
Right.
you can just scale. Sometimes it happens, true. But at the same time, you also kind of want to take into account that it's like 5 times more sales. So I would go back to those structural things that might change. For example, getting back to the conversation we had yesterday, you have a certain offer, and this offer is optimizing for average order value right away. Shifting that focus to lifetime value, where you can lower the entry barrier, meaning that the first purchase is 1/3 compared to what it used to be before. But then those people are still on a subscription. If the product is good, those numbers are going to go up. And that's a kind of like a big swing that if you win, it sets you up for success. Another big option, again, is that second audience. I think 200 grand a month is still a bit early to explore new audiences. Usually you can still squeeze the same audience and add more angles. But another big swing can be finding a brand new audience that you can advertise to, where you can change the the landing page, adapt it to that specific audience. Same goes obviously with the ads. You can change the messaging to a different demographics, and in that case, that's a big swing. And that wouldn't say overnight, but that can definitely, with a couple of batches delivered, increase the ad spend noticeably, for sure.
How much time do you usually spend on coming up with new concepts for the ads, like new angles and stuff like that, versus like iterating on what's already working in the ad account?
That's a great question. It depends on where the account is, right? If you don't have many winning elements, think about, again, winning angles, then you want to test a lot. But if you test a lot, you know that the failure rate is going to be higher for obvious reasons, right? It's a test, so it can go wrong, can go right. But you kind of want to find the right ratio, a healthy ratio based on where the brand is. If they're already at a good point, then you want to maintain those sales. And in order to do that, you want to focus more on the iterations. If they want to optimize for profit, then the iterations is where you have the highest winning rate, the highest win rate. So you kind of want to find the right balance in that. Then regarding how much time you spend working on angles, etc. I mean, now it's like too easy with AI, I would say. The amount of time that we used to spend on a specific product in terms of research, in terms of who can be the right person to advertise this product to, it's 1/10 of what it used to be.
Right.
And right away, I mean, if you spend the same amount of time, you can literally put together research for months. And if you test things out correctly, it's going to take a while before you test out everything. So in terms of what you like, how much time you spend working on those variables, most of the time it's something that you kind of want to do either quarterly, and you kind of put together your creative strategy in terms of what's going to be the next step, in a way, what's going to be the next angle that I want to test out, what's going to be the next iterations, and what is the winner that I have now that I want to expand into like different iterations. Compared to what it used to be, it's just ridiculously lower. And then you have apps like Get Hooked, software like Get Hooked, that help you in terms of shrinking the amount of time that's needed to find new references, new scripts, and work on the script. It's night and day compared to what it used to be 2 years ago.
Right. So what AI tools have you found to be like the most useful in different like stages of your creative development process?
For sure, GPT has to be the number one, top one, king of all the AI tools right now. The way we look at AI tools in general is we kind of have two ways of using it. The first way is creating AI content to kind of integrate the content that you already have at your disposal. So you have a killer ad, you want to change the hook, but you don't have content that represent the problem you're trying to attack with that specific ad. Then you can create content with AI, animate it, and then use it for your hook, which is something that lately has been serving us very well.
Interesting. So you mean taking the picture and animating it with AI?
Yeah. I mean, right now, based on what we're seeing, it's a great option. You have other platforms. We talked about Kling, we talked about Minimax, we talked about Pika.art. You have many. The thing is, Sora, not Pika. Pika is what we use to animate images. But with those, you kind of want to make sure that it's not fake looking, it's not fakish, because otherwise you go on the other side and you lose the relatability, right? I mean, if I have the same product, the same problem of what the AI avatar is telling me, but then it looks like a cartoon, I'm not going to relate to it. And then the second approach we have with AI is basically as some sort of assistant to our creative strategists. So that's where using AI to spot patterns comes in, takes the field, where we use it to analyze the data. We use it for, again, the research. It's just mind-boggling how many things you can do. So those are, I guess, the main ones we use.
What are have you tried, by the way, like replicating the best performing like creators with AI, like creating like AI avatars?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
we tried that, and it's interesting. I mean, it's definitely an interesting test. Now, the risk, again, is that it looks fake. But at the end of the day, you only need 1 second, 2 seconds. Then if there's any part that looks fake,
you mix
can
it up
just
with
put
B-roll.
some B-roll. Yeah, you slap some B-roll in it. And, I mean, you can still pull it off.
What is the output for your video editors like per week in terms of footage? Do you have any specific criteria like in terms of measuring the performance and KPIs?
We have time per video that they spend. Depending on the video, if you're working on a new video obviously takes longer. If you're working on an iteration, takes shorter. But on average, if I'm not wrong, it's somewhere between 25 to 45 minutes per video. And obviously that's optimized with, templates, with AI that sometimes helps heavy content organization, which tends to optimize time quite a lot. I know of many video editors that work with our clients in the recruiting side that basically spend their time organizing content, looking for content, creating content sometimes. Obviously, it's going to take way longer. But if the video editor can be a video editor, they can just edit videos, then that's the time we look at usually.
In terms of the media buying, let's say you have like a batch of like new creatives, and you launch all of them. Let's say you test like 20 new ads. What preliminary metrics are you looking at? I don't know, maybe hold rate, hook rate, like any other ones that like, okay, this is a winner right away.
You want to look at the baseline, right? At the beginning, the soft metrics obviously are where you kind of want to spot those outliers. As time goes by, obviously sales is the king metric, the only one that matters. But still, those outliers at the beginning with the soft metrics, you talked about hook rate, hold rate. CTR tends to be helpful as well, tends to give you kind of like a good understanding of how an ad is performing. But if you have strong outliers there, obviously there's something. And sometimes happens that we have great outliers, but no sales. So in that case, do you want to throw that ad away, or you want to analyze it and try to understand, okay, what is working and what is not working? How can I get this ad that's grabbing attention, obviously, to also convert? Because if I combine the two, one ad that's not grabbing attention but converting a lot with the opposite. So that's where we usually go to when it comes to analyzing the data right away.
Are there any specific like numbers, like in terms of hook rate or hold rate, in terms of the percentages that you kind of like, okay, this is our baseline, this is where we need to be in order to see if this ad is actually scalable?
We have some, but product per product changes a lot, right? If you have a product that aesthetically pleasant, it's much different compared to a super boring product that, like nobody's gonna stop. So again, we go back to the baseline most of the time. Then obviously if the baseline is very shitty, we don't really pay attention to that. But in that case, we tend to have a good amount of data in many verticals, in many industries, where we can kind of understand what is the average for that specific industry, and use that as a baseline to see what outperforms that.
In 4 years that you've been in this industry, what was the most like shocking experience for you? Like, I don't know, maybe some product that like you wouldn't think like it would sell like crazy, or maybe specific market or specific demographic. You had any experiences like that?
I think the most shocking, I'm not gonna get into the product, the specific product, but the most shocking thing is how big the US market is. Like, we have clients that are selling one product, and they've been selling that product forever, spending a lot of money every single month, and you wonder, like, when does it stop? I mean, it's the same product, the same audience.
Is it a consumable product?
No, not even. That's the point.
Wow.
Like, where does it stop? Obviously, there are certain trends. Trends tend to go, if you enter a trend at the right time and you ride the wave with perfect timing, obviously you can kind of like squeeze that for the longest time. But how big is the market? Like, that's crazy. I mean, it's obviously, we all know the numbers, millions, yada, yada. But it's kind of hard for me to wrap my hand around how many people and how much money there is in just, one country compared to what you can do. Usually people tend to go a bit too fast globally, like to scale to other countries a bit too fast. Obviously, certain products allow you to do that, and other products are already saturated in the US. But that's probably one of the most shocking things for me, to be honest.
If you were to start like e-commerce business today, let's say you want to leverage the experience you have with creatives, with ads, understanding that game you want to get into e-commerce, like what specific niches or maybe markets that you would get into?
I would approach that based on how I can promote the product, for sure.
Start with distribution first.
Yes, but also I would ask myself, so what are the angles I can use to promote this product? Is this a product that lends itself to strong emotional angles? If that's the case, that's something that, I mean, we're very strong with. Like, it's something that we've done for the longest time, and it's something that you can take advantage of. I mean, it sounds very harsh the way I'm saying it, but you can squeeze it very, very well. And obviously, if it's a good product that actually solves the problem, then you can be like emotional. For example, I'm thinking of one brand that comes to mind that sells prevention kits for cats. So think about it in terms of how many emotional angles you have.
Prevention for what exactly?
Diseases. Basically, as far as I understood, cats, it's kind of hard. I'm not a cat person, so I might be butchering it here. But it's hard to understand what is the right breed of the cat. And if you understand what is the right breed, then you can kind of supplement the cat the right way so that you can prevent certain diseases.
Right.
And that's something that obviously you love your cat, you see your cat every day. Do you want to prevent those diseases? It's a very strong angle. It's a very strong hook. And all those emotional angles are something that I would look for if I was to start a new product. I would start from the angles I can use to target the people I want to buy. And the second thing would be the TAM, the total addressable market. So is this a product I can only sell to a very specific group of people? Or, again, I can expand it to multiple audiences. These two are definitely the two things I would look for.
When it comes to advertising, what is one thing that I think most people, most other advertisers wouldn't agree with that you believe in?
Probably that audience angle ad structure. It's something that I haven't heard anybody talk about. And I feel like sometimes, like on my YouTube channel, for example, I kind of tend to bring things back to this structure. And sometimes I feel like it seems a bit too simplified compared to what it actually is. And obviously it is, but when you want to create frameworks, you can't include everything. But at the same time, I have a very bad memory, so I need frameworks that are catchy, that are easy for me to remember. And also, if I want to train somebody that's part of my team or somebody that we place for somebody else's team, I really want to make sure that I can convey the message the easiest way possible. Maybe it's 95% accurate. It's not 100% accurate. But if the point gets across and most importantly, they're able to implement on that specific framework, it's something that, in my opinion, is worth.
You mentioned yesterday you help businesses to place creative strategies. Can you tell more about that? Like what that service looks like?
Yeah, it's very simple. So I can give you some backstory. We are, and we used to be even more, bombarded by recruiting agencies, ad hunting agencies that like basically don't know what they're doing when it comes to creative strategy. They are asked to hire and find a creative strategist, and the only thing they do is go to agencies, go to stores, probably to look for Alex Fedotoff, AF Media on LinkedIn, who's the creative strategist, and they just bombard them. So first of all,
they try to poach your people?
Exactly, yeah. So first of all, that pissed me off quite a lot. And the second thing is, why don't we do it? So these people are looking for our creative strategist, and our superpower is training these creative strategists and giving them a creative system that actually works, right? So rather than just doing the same thing, which was recruiting, we asked ourselves, why don't we do exactly what we do internally for other brands? So we find the right candidate based on your requirements. We onboard the candidate based on how we onboard people in our company. And then we also ramp them up. So we help them fix your current creative system, which is something that most e-com brands are just like living out there in a way.
Right.
Like there's not really a system. Most of the time it's a Notion empire.
Yeah.
And it's very messy. So what we notice is that it's almost like having a pilot and asking the pilot to build a plane and fly it, right? The creative
Right.
strategist should be the person executing on the creative system. But if you expect that person to also build a creative system, it's a bit of a trouble. And what we notice is that you can have a 10 out of 10 creative strategist, but if you throw that person into a 6 out of 10 creative system, that person will be destroyed by a 6 out of 10 creative strategist in a 10 out of 10 system. So it's not only finding the right person, but also putting that right person in a position where they can excel, where they can succeed.
So you help businesses both with creative systems and with placing creative strategies into those systems.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So where people can find out more about it?
CreativeStrategists.com. As easy as that. CreativeStrategists.com. Yeah, we're buying creative strategists as well, but it's taken a while.
That's awesome. Cool. And where people can connect with you?
Alessio Cordeddu. I'm not gonna even try to spell it for
we'll drop it
American
here.
audience. Yeah, I'll probably find the link in description. But yeah, it's Alessio on Instagram. 99ads.com is probably where they can find the most information about the service.
Alessio, thank you so much for joining me. Great conversation. And yeah, see you guys in the next video. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me, man.